This is Britt Spears, a longtime member of Cedar Grove Baptist Church. He has graciously agreed to be interviewed. Tell us, Britt, a little bit about yourself, your family background, and where you came from.
We came to Leeds from the Birmingham area 52 years ago. I was 8 years old. And so I don't know how many churches we visited. I just remember being here since I was 8 years old. So
Yeah.
that's how deep my roots go here.
So when y'all moved here and you were 8 years old, is that when you became a member?
Yeah, I became a member. Yes, we became members here then. I became a Christian at 10th Avenue Baptist Church when I was 7, the previous year before we moved here. So I was already a Christian, but Brother Battles was pastor here then, and I really enjoyed his sermons. And I can remember as a young child he'd preach, and I thought somebody ought to go down. I'd go down. I'd rededicate my life.
Keep him encouraged.
Yeah. After about the second time of that, he said, "We'll have a talk."
That's cute. Were there any relatives already here when y'all came
None
to
of my
Cedar?
relatives are from this area.
Okay. So what are your first memories of church? Well, you just said Brother Battles.
Yeah, Brother
Invitation.
Battles was the pastor here. The church was really growing. This building was always packed out. I remember that. So I have a lot of the old saints that are dead and gone that are, part of my history here for sure. Sunday school teachers, and Wednesday night teachers, and so forth. But back then we had Sunday night services as well, and so we were in church 3 times a week.
Yeah. And where were you baptized?
I was baptized at 10th Avenue Baptist Church, where I was
Saved.
under Brother Herford.
Hereford. We had a Burford here. Okay. What were some of the memorable events in the life of the church in your early years here, like revivals, baptisms, singings, dinner on the ground, Sunday school, vacation Bible school?
Well, vacation Bible schools were always fun. I can remember that. I couldn't remember the teachers. Now, I do remember some of my teachers, from years ago. Mildred Calloway, I can remember her. She was one of my teachers. And the people here took us in like family. And the people were family. Matter of fact, so much so that we took on their uncle and aunt names.
Yeah. Aunt Ruey.
Yeah, Aunt Ruey and
Nanny.
Uncle Frank and Aunt Nanny and Uncle DeShazo. And I just, we just called them, that's what everybody else called them.
Yeah.
Those people here were kin to each other, and I guess that's why. But yeah, Don, let me think just a minute. Don Poole, died at an early age. I think he died at 40 years old, but he led RAs when I was growing up. Jimmy Walker, I can remember him playing a part in that. Yeah, RAs, I was involved in RAs back as a child, and enjoyed those activities, and then of course Bible school was always fun.
Yeah. What organizations and ministries of the church have you been involved with?
I have been on a couple of pastor search committees. I was on the pastor search committee that introduced Brother Billy, our current pastor, and I became a deacon. I think I might have been 24 years old, maybe. So I've served in the capacity of a deacon. Sunday school teacher. I served in that capacity, and building grounds committee. I think it's the only committee I've actually been involved
Describe the church buildings when you first attended the church.
So,
How they changed.
yes, when I first came here, this building we're in right now, the chapel, was the main, was where we all met, and in the basement was a fellowship hall. And we had a lot of good times there. I can remember different events and just crazy events, and first one thing and another that we had there. And it was in the very early 70s while Brother Battles was here that we started the building program, and that our current sanctuary is located in, and the new fellowship hall. Because that road used to end there. It used to be a little dirt road that tied the two roads together, Asheville Road and Cedar Grove Road together, and they went right by this church. There's nothing but a field out there. I can remember that. And I remember the building being built because I was not supposed to be in that building. But Tim Willingham, myself, and John Glass raced through the attic when it was just sticks and climbed down the scaffold. And I would have gotten away with it. When I run around the corner, I beat everybody down. And I said, ha ha, I beat y'all. And I turned around and had got a concussion because I ran into a 2x4.
Oh, no. So Battles was the pastor when you joined here.
Yes.
What pastors do you remember that made a lasting impact on your life?
Well, I think without exception, I'd have to say Brother Billy has made the most lasting impression. Pastors, typical to a Baptist church, didn't stay here very long, and so at some point, I don't remember what point that was, but I decided this church is family. And I set my foot down and my roots down, and I said, you know, pastors may come and go, and people may get mad at each other, they're going to get over it. And I just made my mind up to love everybody. And there were saints in my life that showed that. Don Martin was one of those. I never heard a bad word come out of his mouth. And, you know, I could see the examples of those people and realize that this is family. And this church has meant a lot to me through the years, really. It's been like family. And even when family wasn't family, they've been family.
What about some of the dear old saints? The lessons or examples that they set for you that you'd like the young people, the new generations, to know about them?
Yeah, I have a lot of memories. I can remember Elisha, Maylene Smith, especially Maylene, because I lived at the end of Lane Drive, and I would commute either by bicycle or walk to where she lived because she had mealyworms. And so she had bait. I didn't have to go dig bait, but she loved to fish, and I would meet her, and we'd go down to the creek and we'd fish together. And I heard stories of Elisha. I knew him, but I didn't spend much time with Elisha. But Elisha was hard-headed. And the story goes now that he was a carpenter, and he accidentally hit his finger. And he took his finger and put it up on a 2x4, and he said, well, I'll teach you. And he took his hammer and busted it again.
Oh, my goodness.
But Dick Rowe, oh man, I can remember as a teenager, Dick Rowe taught me how to bass fish. And there was nothing that I liked better than to get a call from him, and I'd ride my bicycle and bring my tackle box and rod, and I'd meet him at his house whenever he'd call, and we'd go fishing. And of course, Charles Willingham, many times he would call and invite us to the lake, and I'd go spend time with his family there at the lake. Gosh, they're so numerous. I can remember being at RA's or camping with the RAs, and waking up early one morning on Sportsman Lake to smell bacon frying, and who was there stirring up but Frank Jones.
Oh.
But we did life together. There were several of us that went to the Smoky Mountains and would camp out.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Arrington was great working with the choir. And Sunday school teacher, I had him in both capacities. And Pappy Martin, I can remember he was the first one to the church and the last one to leave.
Oh.
Because he made sure that all the lights were turned out and the doors were locked, and I can remember him many times walking across that parking lot, going home late at night.
Oh.
So, those memories I'll never soon forget, and others like Irene Gore playing the piano, so faithful all those years and years, and her husband Frank was always counting the money. That's what he did. Him and Bill Bass, I can remember them sitting in that room up there counting the money. That's what their job was.
What kind of spiritual guidance did they impart to you that you use today?
I can remember when I was nominated to be a deacon, and Charlie Farley had I would say a pretty good impact on me. She always had words of wisdom. Always had good pair of reserves too. But she told me to walk softly and carry a big stick. It took me a while to figure out what that meant. But yeah, she was a sweet soul. That was her words of advice.
What are the significant events in the life and history of the church you remember?
Well, Cedar Grove has been involved in the community, and I know that I think before my time, maybe East Grove was started as a satellite church on a mission trip some years back to Brazil. Cedar Grove actually bought a church building. You couldn't buy the property at that time because it was squatters. So Cedar Grove bought a church, and I went back a few years later, and that church was still going.
Oh.
So I was real tickled at that.
To be a part of that.
Right, to be a part of that. And the church it was money that had been taken up by the church, and we had that surplus and didn't know why, but when we got there, the Lord just opened the door and provided that. So.
Oh. That's amazing. I think I remember when you went to that. How do you feel that church has changed in the years since you've been a member?
Well, church is done differently a lot these days. You have the mega churches, but the funny thing is that they have to go to a smaller church when they get ready to marry or die.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that philosophy, I guess, is okay for some people, but for a small community, there's so much more to gain. There's more of a family-like atmosphere, and people know and can get to know people a lot better in a smaller setting.
Right. I agree. Tell us about a time at Cedar Grove where your faith was tested and or when you grew spiritually as a result of personal events or problems.
Well, that's pretty easy. I have a daughter. Her name is Rebecca, and she was 14 years old. She got into the drug scene, and time went by. Those kind of things, at first you want to keep those to yourself and try to handle them yourself. And there came a time when we realized this is bigger than us, and I have to include my family. Yeah. And I stood before this church and asked this church to back me up, and that I needed their prayers. and they stepped in, and many people did, and held us up during that time and got us through that situation.
Yes.
So that was a hard time, but it was also a growing time, spiritually growing time.
Absolutely. What do you think God, how would you complete this sentence? God is calling Cedar Grove Baptist Church to?
Well, God has always called Cedar Grove Baptist Church to be a beacon and a light in this community. And I think they have, through the various ministries that are ongoing, and ministries have changed through the years. We don't go out and visit like we used to. I can remember going out on a certain night and just knocking on doors. And most of the time there were people who had been here, very little cold calling, but we don't do much of that anymore, but there are various ministries that we have instituted that reach out to people. The food bank is one in one way, and the faith riders have really done a lot of ministry, do a lot of ministry, and that's been a big addition, I think, to this church. For a while we had Celebrate Recovery. We shared that with another church, and we eventually passed that off to that church, and so we've had various ministries that we helped to start, and maybe somebody else took over. So,
Well, is there anything else that you can think of you'd like for the future generations to hear? Since we probably won't be here in 25 years.
well, we build on others' foundation, and the old saints that were here built that foundation, and the foundation is Jesus Christ. And as long as we build on that foundation, then our church and our ministry will thrive, not just survive, but it will thrive. And so, pay attention to the older folks. They have a lot of wisdom, still to give, and those that are here. So I have gleaned, I know probably more than I can even remember from some of the older members, but the one thing that stands out is just loving on each other.
Yeah. And holding each other up in prayer when we have our trials.
Right.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Britt. We
Absolutely.
appreciate that.